Hi, everyone. I'm just going to give our attendees 2 more minutes, and then we'll start our fun session and open Q&A. Have given 2 minutes. We can start, I guess. Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are so excited to have you guys join our open HR Q&A session. And this is a fun session. We are in a very fun and happy place right now with our podcast hosts. We have Dr. Liz Warren, we have Dean Kipp, and we have Nikki Blanche, and we are just going to start the session. I just want to let you guys know we have a Q&A box where you can put in your questions, and our hosts are just going to go through as we proceed. And so now over to the team.
Thank you.
Wow, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, some of you may have seen us. Can I plug our podcast
Yeah.
quick? With our HR Service Unscripted. The three of us are involved with that. And please download us, like us, subscribe, wherever you find your podcasts. We're just jumping on to have a few questions. Please ask anything you need. We will give you an answer as well as we can. We can't give away too much. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see the questions. Anyway. Okay, we kind of discussed. Do you want me to start with the one we were discussing a minute
You have
ago?
the one to
Yeah,
start?
that'd be
Yeah, I didn't
great.
read it. I want to hear it.
I didn't read
don't
it either.
know. No, I threw it in. Well, I actually had this question asked to me on Saturday of all days. And it's not too bad. I have two really good ones actually that were asked to me on Saturday. But the first one, I work with a mix of people. Mind you, this is quote unquote from a person that I was having dinner with. I work with a mix of people, all races, genders, etc. A majority are male. We have 3 or 4 females in our work area. One lets us know every time we talk to her that she's very gay and make sure we're all aware many, many times. So safety meetings, getting together, briefings, any small talk, she tells us. Well, she's been part of our team as long as I've been there, 20 plus years. We all know her. We usually don't even listen to her rants. You know. So first they brought in a brand new person who, after the first safety meeting and she went on her rant, went to the manager to complain. So that's the scenario. For all of us long timer, it's normal. We ignore it. It's no big deal. But this new person's highly offended and is really after this person now. How do we get this person to calm down, quote unquote?
So what is it they're offended by, that it keeps coming up, or the fact that she's gay?
That's the question. I didn't get that piece of it. They was just offended that she was talking about being gay, and we're like, okay.
Yeah, you're allowed to.
Yeah. So apparently this young person is very adamant to get this other person in trouble. And I'm just like, what is the issue here? Well, okay. How,
Can
as an
we think,
HR,
though, that it turns into sexual harassment of the new person if this other person is like keeps drilling in their sexuality?
Definitely. And there's a certain level of boundaries that we have to have in the workplace, and it's okay to set that standard. Like if you're gay in the workplace, fine. Does it have to be part of every conversation? No, because that point, that's when you start, like Nikki said, drawing into where it could become sexual harassment.
I'd also like to know what the context is. Like, I feel like in a heteronormative culture, you like people, I say my husband, and you say your wife. Like, is it just that the person keeps referring to their spouse in the wording that is not expected because they are gay? Like, that's not really, I don't think that's offensive because that's kind of a normal way that people talk. Like you mentioned the people you live with at work.
yeah, his
Exactly.
understanding is he's worked with her for so long that no one cares. It's like, okay, it's almost like a running joke. It's like, okay, they're going to say this and we're going to go on. No big deal. This new kid comes in and is offended by something that's been said. I'm like, okay, well, let's look at this more. There's a few more questions we need to ask. Not
Yeah.
only with yourself, with your story, because he's like, I don't care, this new kid. And he's like, let's just get rid of the new kid. They're causing friction. We've done this for so long, for so many years. Everything's been fine until the new person came in and started making waves.
And that's what I'm wondering, is it, if this person's trying to get the other person in trouble, then maybe it's not so much a problem that it's being brought up, but it's a problem that that person's gay. And that also has to be examined as well, because then we run into discrimination in the workplace.
Mhm.
And
But
that
I
person
would
may need
also,
them.
if you fire that new person for raising a flag, is that not discrimination against them? Because if it's not said in like the course of conversation, but instead the person saying, well, because I'm gay, blah, 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 that is offensive then. I would be very careful before terminating the new person for complaining.
Yeah, I think this one you have to tread very lightly and get more information about what's going
We
on.
need a lot more information, of course. Yeah, but just an interesting question that came up,
That
especially
is
from a
interesting.
person
Yeah.
who's been at this. He's literally going to retire in October, so he's been at this company a long time, done the same job forever, very manual labor.
Mhm.
And it is with a state government, believe it or not. Not that that matters. It's, there's a little bit more information about the company, and everything I could give, but it's not
I mean,
really
it matters a
necessary.
little bit because typically state and federal workers have stricter
That's true. That is
provisions
true. That
for
is true.
discrimination.
Yeah, so it's an interesting scenario. It's something that, okay, think if you're brand new in HR and they come to you on this desk and say, hey, boom, what do I do? Like someone that's just brand new, this would make their head spin and go, oh my gosh.
Mhm. I
Then
mean,
we're
like
like, okay,
everything,
let's
we
just
have
go talk
to,
to some people.
we always say it depends. Let me hear
It
more
depends.
information. Let me conduct an
Uh-huh.
investigation. Now I have to like talk to the witnesses and, get the context of it. I love that we always remember to not jump to conclusions and to say, let me talk to every single person who's involved in all levels and get, yeah, it's important to know that this person's worked there for a million years because obviously they are probably a good worker.
Uh-huh.
Well, that if they've worked there that long as well and haven't received any other complaints, then that also speaks to the culture, the context. Maybe it's not a pervasive, ongoing issue. But I don't know. We need more information. But we should have a bell for every time we have to answer. It depends, or we need more information.
Oh man,
Just
that would
ring
just
it.
go on continuously.
Reinvesting that thing.
Well, the other interesting piece is, this crew, all the people have worked together literally for 20 plus years. And so it's very interesting. You have this old crew, then you bring in someone new, all of a sudden maybe they don't like the change of having a new person there or this and that. And you're like, okay, what's the real dynamics going on?
And that becomes an issue in a lot of those really tenured teams that sometimes they become a little cliquey and are more
Yeah.
not as warming when new people come in.
Exactly. You bring in some new person who's not tenured or proven, and yeah, it could be. Anyway, so there's a few ways this could go, and I know we need to investigate and ask a lot more questions on it. But it was an interesting dinner conversation.
That is a good starter question. I like it.
Mhm. I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
also how it highlights that sometimes when you have a new person come in very much like family dynamics, when a new, person comes into the family, it changes things because then you're looking at it through a stranger's lens. So is this person exposing valid issues or is the clickiness of the existing team not accepting to new ideas and changes of work and things like that?
Mhm.
Agreed.
Because
Agreed.
sometimes when you get to that level, you can be a little bit more open with your coworkers than what you probably should be,
Right.
which can make newcomers uncomfortable.
And when you've known somebody for a million years, like you just, there's a verbal shorthand that comes from that where it's like you don't have to explain exactly who you are each time you just say this stuff because not
Yeah.
only do they know you, but they've seen you go through these things for however many years,
Mhm.
Oh yeah, and they know all their friends and families. They all live by each other, and you get a new
Maybe
person in causing
socialize.
drama. Yeah.
Right. Okay. We do have a couple questions already in the chat.
Oh, awesome.
Wow.
I didn't read through them. I'm just going to read them live. All right. So what do you do when a high-performing employee is consistently reported for behavior issues, but leadership doesn't want to act because of their results?
That's a common theme that we see.
So common.
And it's unfortunate because you don't want to stifle the performance, but at the same time, in order to enhance the performance of everybody else, you need to address the issues.
Well, wasn't our last podcast or two ago that we talked about high performers equal high maintenance? So the high performer may be covering the company's costs, but they're a total turd. And how do you want to handle that? Do you want to get rid of them and lose that revenue? So it's real
Also, I
talk,
feel
right?
like we've typically find that like their behavior issues sometimes are what is driving their success because they don't exactly like play by the rules, but that is what is making them, they think outside the box and they, are typically like very driven and they think to themselves, I'm going to do this even though it's not the protocol and I'm just going to beg for forgiveness later because they shoot their shot and if it's successful, which it typically is, it's like, yeah, but look what I did. Look what I did for the company. Look how much money I made.
Exactly. And this is another, it depends because It does. You have a high performer who could be just literally running the company. Is it affecting turnover? Is it affecting everything else? Is it affecting people's well-being? We have to look at all the different scenarios. It's like we're not literally not just going to go and get rid of this person right off the bat because they're making others angry.
because they're annoying.
Yeah, if
And
we
you have
got rid of, I'm sorry, kill this.
and you have to
I would have
consider
been
the
fired a
validity.
long time ago.
The validity of the complaints as well. Some of them may be very valid, some of them may be having impact, like Dean was saying. But sometimes when there's high performers, you have others that are not so keen on it, and maybe in order to make themselves look better, they put their problems on somebody else, and that could be it too.
Because they feel like it highlights their deficiencies. I mean, in this case, I think I've been around long enough that my like typical answer for this is as long as they're not doing anything discriminatory or dangerous, you're gonna have to live with it because they are keeping this company successful and that's how they're doing it. Like I'm not gonna stop them.
See, I'm big on still addressing the issue. If it's a legitimate issue, I still want to address it because in reality, it does have an impact on other employees most of the
To
time.
address it. And as soon as those number falls, they're gone.
Yeah, exactly.
That,
Yeah,
that's
you
kind of
got to
what you're
keep it
saying, right?
up. If that's how you're gonna manage your workload, yeah, you have to keep producing because as soon as you stop, right. I mean, the people who are bending the rules, I think need to be aware that
Oh.
the product needs to be there for the
On the
justification.
same note, too, it's interesting in sales because sales is such a cutthroat, well, depending on the company, right? We know people who are in sales, and if they don't hit their targets within 90 days, the company lets them go.
Mhm.
I'm like, that's, how do you stay productive for that length of time and profitable and keep going? That's just a lot of stress and pressure on that team.
It is.
Salespeople are always like the wild, wild west of every company, you know?
Like those people.
I love salespeople. I think they're fun. They're usually very dynamic. You know, if they're good, like they're good at what they do, it's just like a certain personality type that I feel is very good at that. And they make a lot of companies run. So, you know,
I
we all have
agree.
our strengths.
Sales teams are definitely an important part of the company.
Very important part of the
Every
company. Yep.
company.
Right.
Very outgoing. Very outgoing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, as long as they're good at what they do, let them do their thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes they need their hands slapped when they get out of control and they know. Got to keep the reins on.
But doesn't everybody?
Keep their
No.
reins on.
No.
Did you watch too many mafia movies this weekend, Dean?
I have watched no movie. Well, we can discuss after what movies I actually watched. It was a very themed watching routine. Yeah.
Well, just tell us the theme really quick, and then I'll read the next question.
It was all Disney related. We went to 3 Disney shows, believe it or not.
Nice.
Yeah, at all.
Yeah. And Disney, if you'd like to sponsor, please get a hold of us. Contact us solutions@hrservicing.com. There you go. A little plug for us. Okay.
So the next question, I just read the first line, and I'm going to say this one does also come up a lot. Thank you very much for the question. We're not saying who sent in the questions, just so people can remain anonymous and feel more comfortable if you have like a sticky one. So this person says, I have a protected class employee who is performing at a C minus. She fits in with our culture, seems smart enough, but I don't think she's a good match for her current position. We have an opening coming up in a position that would be a better fit for her, but it is lower level. Can I tell her that we are moving her to this open position if I keep her pay even? Any concerns with this, or do you have any advice on how best to approach it? She is on a performance improvement plan currently and is really trying in her current role, but I believe it's just too much for her.
I'm excited that she's already on a performance improvement plan because a lot of times that's the missing piece that the employee doesn't know that their performance is not up to par.
Yeah. And then it's a big surprise when they're like, hey, you stink, go to this other job.
And a lot of times when you do find an employee in protected classes, some managers are afraid to approach that employee and talk about performance deficiencies.
And did they say that they would move them to this other position at her current pay?
They did.
So that's a positive. Usually you'll all
Mhm.
see where they want to take them to lower position at that position's pay. So she's getting to a position where she could actually do at the same pay rate. I mean, it's kind of a win-win right here.
It definitely is. And I think it's acceptable to have that conversation. Hey, you're not doing okay on your performance improvement plan. It's not looking like it's going to end well. However, we do have this other option because we would like to retain you. We do see you trying. Here's another option.
Mhm. And your pay will remain the same.
Mm-hmm.
Other
Yeah,
than
exactly.
just, if it's someone who's very ambitious and they feel like it's a downgrade, but I still feel like an open, honest conversation is the most respectful way to handle it. I think that's what
Yeah, and
like managers are afraid to just like lay it out there and be like, these are the facts. We
no,
can
this
offer
one's
them.
actually so whoever wrote the question, actually, I think you did a very good job with this because you
Mm-hmm.
say she does fit in our culture, right? You're
Mhm.
intelligent, just not a good match for your position. There are people who are not good matches for their positions, and I respect people who find matches within your company to put them in the correct position. And there's a lot of companies that they'll just cut and let go
Mhm.
and try again. I mean, you think this saves in recruiting? One, if you're a recruiter or in doing it recruiting, you're like, "Pfft, I just covered a position right there." So
Mhm.
this one's good. I'm okay with everything
Yeah,
said.
on the right track,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say just another conversation about it. But yeah, if you can keep their pay whole. I mean, we don't have all of the information, so we don't know if this other position is like a downgrade in any other types of benefits, like maybe PTO or stock options or things like that. So if those factors come into play, then obviously there'd be a more.
Could be different, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, then when you have the open conversation too, you say, hey, you're not being productive in this position, but we have a position we think you'll be successful at.
Mhm.
Let's take and run with it. I mean, you
Mhm.
could sell this position and make this person say, oh, I'm not doing so great. Let's go to somewhere I can be great.
Mhm. I would like to
Hmm.
add that just the fact that this just the fact that the person is in a protected class, it's good context, but it doesn't relate really to the question at all. I just wanted to also include that because that was in the question.
Oh, that's true. A protected class. Yeah, yeah. And if, protected class, if you're not doing your job and it's documented well.
Mhm. Also, I'm
So
kind
that's
of
good.
getting to the point where I feel like everyone's in a protected class just because it's like everyone has a race, you know,
Mm-hmm.
everyone has a gender. It's just so I feel like we're treating everybody the same, no matter what is
The
going
key
on.
is
That's a good thing.
consistency and documentation.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's a good question. And they're
Oh,
doing the good thing, so it's good. It's always nice to have a question where it's like, oh, good, you pretty much answered yourselves, but you're going the right way. It's like comes out positive.
mhm. Guys want the next one?
Yeah.
Is this a platform in which we can discuss the interactive process for accommodations? For example, would an interactive process be necessary because someone needs to refrain from one essential job function for 4 to 6 weeks due to a medical complication from surgery? We have other tasks the employee could do during that time. During the time they are unable to perform the essential function. Okay, wait,
A
no.
good question.
Sorry, I can't read and absorb at the same time. I gotta read it. Um, Okay, so I like to encourage clients to engage in the interactive process even when they're not legally required to do so, just because I feel like it's a best practice. But my
Mhm.
first question here would be, is the company covered by, I'm going to say ADA, I'm assuming this is ADA. Meaning, do you have 15 employees at least? Would be the first question. And then if they say that they have other things that they could do, that's great. So let's look at their job description. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I
I took it
agree.
as like, yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry. Go, doctor. Tell us.
Oh, that was the extent of my answer. I agree.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Well, I took it more of a workman's comp kind of question, where this person can only do this for, was it like 4 to 6 weeks?
Mhm.
Maybe, there was an injury or something. It could be an injury outside of work, and they're just being, you know, saying, okay, we understand you can't do your current job, but we have these positions you can do for the time till you're healed, which that's fine. I say, yeah,
And
I agree.
whenever it's short term, whatever you can do to keep the employee on, um, that helps with retention, helps with workplace satisfaction,
Uh-huh.
and saves you from having to recruit down the line. So it
Mhm.
makes sense to help the employees when possible.
I agree. And if you have work with this person already, that's great. You have work that's someone else. Good. Let's keep everybody busy.
Right.
Especially people that are willing to come to work and do something that's not their main task and something that's maybe, a little different. You don't see that as often as you should nowadays.
Mhm. It doesn't say what state, but I would like to call out that it is state dependent. Some states have more strict rules on accommodations. If this person would like to let us know what state, maybe we can give a little bit of extra information.
It's still a good question. Okay.
Very good question. That one comes up frequently as well. Just the interactive process in general, which I find fascinating. Just because I'm just glad more companies are talking about it and accessing it. There's so much information online and askjan.org where you can learn about it. And that's why I'm saying, like, even the clients who are not 15 or more employees, even those who don't really have to do it, I would say go there anyway. See what like the guidelines are and if it's possible for you to accommodate.
And the key is reasonable accommodation. If it's an undetermined period of time off of work, that's not necessarily reasonable. There are some requests that just aren't reasonable. And that's why the ADA process, the interactive process, is so important, because you could document those trends and justify future decision making and make whatever makes the most business sense.
And also, like, the employee can request something in accordance with an accommodation, and then the employer is more than welcome to review that and come up with an alternative solution that maybe makes a little bit more sense. That's where that's where the interactive part comes in, where it's like, yes, we're receiving it, we're reviewing it, and here's our ideas. Does that work for both of you? And sometimes you do have to go back and forth with the medical provider a couple of times to find the right solution.
But it can be worth it.
For sure. And I always encourage employees, like, don't be afraid to ask, as opposed to then things go down the line and it's too severe, or you're too injured to come back or something like that. Like, let's talk about it ahead of time or as early as possible.
Great. Great.
Did you have another question, Dean?
I have a couple. One's kind of long and similar to injury, but I don't know. Let's do kind of, it's kind of funny and silly because we've all had this asked to us, I'm sure. This one, it says, my taxes got all messed up. The company never pulled my federal tax. Now they won't fix it. I'm paying a ton in taxes that I can't afford. What do I do? That
Adjust
is
your
literally
W-4 next year.
right, right. It's how many times have we had this? Actually, I had this a couple times this year already. Uh, like, you didn't pull enough taxes. I'm like, I don't touch your taxes. That comes out. That is something you pick and choose.
I feel like people don't like this answer, but when I get asked this question, I say it is ultimately your responsibility to make sure your taxes are correct. And that is why we encourage people to review their paycheck every time they get one. And I agree when you're like, you have automatic deposit and all your bills are automatic, like maybe you're not looking at it all the time. At least look at it at the beginning of the year and make sure things are okay. Maybe mid-year. I mean, look at it, make sure it's your job.
And this is unfortunate because at the end of the day, it is ultimately the employee's responsibility. The payroll's only going to do whatever is on that W-4. So it's very important to make sure that's accurate. And I say that having just had that happen to me this year, not me, myself, my husband didn't do his W-4 right. And so we owe some taxes. So I get it. It's not pleasant. It sucks. But at the end of the day, it's our own fault. We have to fix that going forward for the next year.
And when I got this question, I just kind of I giggled to myself because yes, I've had this, but everybody I know that's in this field has had this asked to them at least once, if not multiple times throughout their career. And it's like, how do you not look at your stuff for entire 12 months and realize, oh, I didn't pay any federal taxes?
Look, I'm sorry,
Like, oh
I'm
my.
judging you. Look at your stuff. This is
Yep.
like literally the money you're using to live.
I agree.
So if it comes, so the other part of it that kind of stinks is that if it is established that the company did make a mistake and that's why your funds were not allocated correctly, still the employee's responsibility. So every once in a while, you'll find an employer who's like, hey, that was our screw up. We will offer you this stipend or some kind of a payback plan or something like that. Like sometimes the employer will try to make them whole the best they can, but there's no guarantee.
That is out of the employer's good heart that they're doing that. It is not a requirement.
Right.
Oh,
That was a good one.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just kind of short and silly. We're like, okay, I think we all know that answer. Okay, I did get one final one, and it's okay. It's not as good as the others, but this person goes on a lot. Setup is they are a production worker. Um, I have a coworker who is always getting hurt. It seems to be every week, realistically, every other week. One time he's pinched his finger, one time he's broke a toe, the other time he cuts his hand. All the injuries seem to be minor, just hurt enough to miss a day or two, maybe three. Our super seems, yeah, he tells us, that's just part of the job, part of our process. Move on. So I think the process is broken. And it's the same person that keeps getting hurt. None of the rest of us get hurt, and we have to cover for this gentleman all the time. It's hurting our numbers. Our boss won't do anything. What can we do?
That's kind of a big question because I feel there's a lot going on here.
There is a lot going on there.
Is there training in place? Is this a trend amongst all employees, or is it only this one employee? Has
It is
this
only the one
employee,
employee.
so then it may not be the training for the company itself, but maybe that
No, no.
individual, are they following the safety rules? Or do they just have bad luck? Like what is it?
So I spoke to this person, face to face, a little conversation, and they're just frustrated because the person, it's almost, they feel it's self-inflicted, even though they can't prove it. But the person gets sidetracked, will put their finger somewhere or breaking toes. Like, we don't know how they break toes. That's mandated steel-toed boots, and they work with large parts and this and that. Yes, there's always hands, cuts, people getting stitched up. They all go through company training. Like, they have a safety officer, everything that goes through there. Just the one person, literally on their team, 8-person team, is always the one getting hurt. No one else is getting hurt.
Are they doing after incident reports? Are they investigating to find out after each accident
I
what was the
don't
cause?
have that. Yeah, I don't have that information. I know it. The reports go to the safety person. I don't know what happens after that, nor do they. But the supervisor just tells them it's part of the job. Keep going.
That attitude needs to be adjusted.
It's supervisor's kind of a turd. Yeah,
That attitude's not healthy for any work environment, really. But if it's just one person and it seems to be a theme, we need to find out if that person is following proper safety procedures. And if not, we need to address that.
well, not interesting. So I do know it is in California. It is a large, large production company where they work, like they have unlimited overtime. You can work as much as you want.
Oh,
So yeah, it's very interesting. So all the things he told me, first of all, is going through California rules about overtime and everything, because he'll work 70 hours a week.
there's a lot of red flags here.
I know, right?
So you can't terminate or discipline someone for getting injured on the job, but you can terminate or discipline them for not following safety protocols. So I would definitely
Exactly.
start there. And I agree with Liz that they need an investigation afterwards to see what's up. And I would also like to know, how do you break toes when you're wearing steel-toed
That
shoes?
was a
Like,
question everybody has. Yeah,
are we
exactly.
reviewing the
It's
medical documentation, or is anyone doing that?
Mhm.
Well, and they watching cameras. There has to be cameras in this facility. It's just interesting all around. You just look at this person. Okay, this person, just the information. The crew thinks it's being intentional, just to get hurt, just to get time off and get, let's go. Let's file a claim, and workman's comp will pay you X amount to what you're working, and blah blah blah. It's like just a lot of silly injuries, just enough not to really get permanently hurt.
That's why I would like to know if anyone's reviewing the medical documentation, because
Mhm.
I hate to say it, but we've seen it. I started my career in workers' comp. There were a lot of people who were either exaggerating their injuries or were just fabricating them straight up. And I mean, sometimes they would even find like shady doctors who would justify it with the documentation. But sometimes, like when push comes to shove, they were not able to produce the documentation. Then it's like, okay, well, you're not actually hurt, or if you are, go to this IME, independent medical exam that we've appointed. Have a couple of other providers state the same thing that this provider is stating, like what your injury is.
Mhm.
It's interesting. It's a very large company, makes lots and lots of money. And it's like, okay, there's this one little thorn in the side. Do they
Mhm.
have time to even deal with it? They're just looking at big dollar signs down the road.
Clearly,
A
they have money to
large
spend if
company.
they're giving that much overtime in California.
Oh yeah, yeah, which
Yeah.
is crazy. Yeah, it's just nuts.
That is a oof. But also I feel like sometimes people with nefarious intentions see that. They're like, look, I'm working with this huge company. Clearly they are flush with money and I want a piece of it,
Yeah. And if I can work my one shift a week and then take the rest of the week off, I'm okay.
right?
It's
Mhm.
like, but why would you want to live that way? It's like, come
I mean, I like to sleep at night, but just, you never know what
on. It was an interesting question. I can see the frustration on this person. It's like, it would be frustrating. Your team's carrying you. You have one
And
person who's being dumb.
it's hard when you see that because if they put that same energy into doing their job, they could actually get promoted, get accolades, and
I know.
If
enjoy
you
some
work as
positive.
hard, yeah,
Yeah.
at your actual job as you did at avoiding your job, you'd be a superstar.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and this whole supervisor bit just drives me crazy. It's like, get part of the job, keep working. It's like, what are you doing?
This one, we have another question. I don't know how much we can get into it. We don't have a ton of information. California again.
Ooh.
California employee has taken her full pregnancy leave, is now on state disability. Do I still need to protect her job / keep her position available for when she comes back? Don't those run concurrently? I'm gonna say yes to start.
So I'm not interpreting it as the California leave that runs concurrently with FMLA. I'm interpreting it as the separate state disability. But
I
once
mean,
they're on that separate state disability, I don't believe it's any more considered a protected status.
oh, really?
I'm going to double check that one because that's a good question.
Oh, they followed up and said, yes, it's separate. Considering California, it's a very employee-friendly state without having like all of the robust information with this question, I definitely would say, I mean, like, why are you looking to immediately get rid of the person is my other question. Are they not, do you not expect them to do a good job when they return?
Okay, so I got some more information. The state disability does not provide job protection. It's only their income protection, so they're getting that income. So if they've ran out of their federally and state mandated leave, then it's no longer protected if the only thing they have going on right now is the state disability.
Hmm. I'm wondering how they're collecting state disability, like if they're not on a protected leave.
Is that runs through the state? So it's like filing disability, but for your I lost the word, but for your income protection.
Mhm. So for this one, it's, you have to look at federal protections plus the state protections plus any reasonable accommodations that follow that, which typically goes into just, ADA things. And literally like take a calendar and be like, this was this time and this was that time and that's that time. And if you're at the end of the line of that protected leave, sorry, I was just assuming that the state disability was going hand in hand with the state protected leave, but if it is now separate, yeah, literally count those weeks. And then if you're at the end of that time or you're no longer covered by that protected leave, which is separate from the income, you can terminate the person at this point. I wouldn't do it just on what I just said. I would follow up if you call us later and we'll talk about it again and get more details. Um, but yeah, that's always a sticky one. And California is very employee friendly, so I would be careful.
And the source I'm looking at is comparing the state disability leave to long-term disability. So it's not job protection. It's not a protected leave. It's just income replacement.
Hmm.
So like Nikki said, if
Is
you've
this
gone through all the state required leaves, you've gone through all the federally required leaves, you've gone through the ADA interactive process, and you're confident that you've documented and fulfilled your obligation on that end, then at that point, yes, you would be able to terminate.
Hmm. Good question. That was a
question?
good one.
Yeah, what's a
That's a
good
good one.
question?
Made us all think.
Yeah. Whenever you hear California, you're like, let me pause. The next question is not so much HR related, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I think it's interesting. Have you ever been asked to do something you felt was legally or ethically questionable, and how did you respond?
Yes. I think most people in HR have been asked to do something that was legally or ethically questionable. And
Mhm.
I can't answer for Dean and Nikki, but I can answer for myself. I elect to not participate in those scenarios, and I get documentation of my recommendation.
Nice.
I like it. I have been asked a few times over the years as something that was not ethical or maybe not so much legal, but mainly ethical. I said, that's not the right thing to do. I'm not going to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like no, we can't go that route, and that's da da da. So yeah, just step back. Yeah,
Yeah, for me, like I kind of pretend that they didn't ask, and I just like treat it as any other typical question and say and give my follow-ups. Okay, what's this and what's that and where are we moving forward from here? What's the end goal? So you have to really look at all angles and yeah, document, document, document. I can't believe this is the first time in the call that I said document because I usually say it for everything.
we all usually say document, document, document. Yeah, but it's been interesting. The ethics thing always gets interesting because what's ethical to some may not be ethical for others.
Hmm.
That's true. And I like Nikki's point of looking at it from other angles because a lot of times you could find alternative solutions that maybe don't make them 100% happy, but are still salvageable and usable.
A compromise, but not, anything that compromises your values. Let's avoid that and have values. How about that? So we got two questions coming in. Dean, do you want to hit that one in the chat?
Maybe.
I mean, I also
Well,
have a quick one if you want to take a minute on that one. When policy says one thing, but the situation clearly calls for flexibility, how far should HR go in bending the rules?
Can we just answer this?
Oh, whoops, we lost the question. How far are we going back? So, okay, that's another one where, yeah, I get that. You have a policy which is more like a guideline, like guardrails, and things are going to come up that deviate from that, and you need to document and give justification. Equity in pay is a big one. Okay, we have this woman who's been working here for 30 years and she makes $5 an hour, and we have this 25-year-old man who's coming and he's going to be offered $10 an hour. What is the justification there? So, what is it? Is it education or relevant experience or something else that this person brings to the table that demonstrates how they're deserving of more money or whatever? So it's the same thing, just like review it from all angles and then make sure that you document exactly what you were thinking. And I'm not going to say that's going to absolve you of all liability because, maybe to tell us everything so we can help you. But yeah, just document and justify.
I think having that business reason for the flexibility goes a long way, especially when it's documented in protecting the company. Because also keep in mind, whatever you do here, you're setting the precedent for future similar situations. So another thing to consider is, would I have this same, if this is a strong performer, would I have this same flexibility for a poor performer? And if your answer is no, then that's a good sign that maybe you shouldn't bend the rules that much.
That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, it's so nice to like turn it around and say, how would I treat it if it wasn't this situation, but it was the other one? That's such a great way to look at it because it really highlights if you're being unfair.
Yeah. Be consistent. I always try to preach be consistent, please. Okay, should we jump in this one? I grabbed it and it's
Yeah, I want to hear about it. I
all
don't know
right.
Iowa off the top of my head though, so
We are in Iowa. Shout out to everyone in Iowa. We do temporary seasonal layoffs for employees. We sometimes have employees who go out under FMLA near their layoff time. They are then off over the layoff period. So they're on FMLA during the layoff period. Do we count their time out during layoff towards their FMLA time, even if we don't have employees working? If so, and they run out of FMLA time, but employees are still on a layoff, can we still terminate even though providing additional unpaid time is not necessarily an undue hardship?
Where I
There's a
think
lot
this
to
comes into
process.
play is that, so they're on FMLA and obviously it's 12 weeks. They take the whole 12 weeks, right? But there's no work. So then say they come back to work for a week and they want, maybe they've only taken 1 week really of the FMLA because that's when there was work and they're on leave. So that means they have 11 more weeks to use during the course of the year when they are back to work. So I think the issue is becoming that these people can take off for like all this time. They're getting all this additional time, like when there is work to do.
So I would not count the layoff time as FMLA time if there's not work to do, if that makes sense. So to
Mhm.
Nikki's point, that is increasing the amount of FMLA time they have. But at the same time, you are still able to go in and not hold that job because there's no job to hold. So you could still go through the layoff process, especially if you still consider them eligible for rehire and bring them back on the following season when it starts back up again.
Well, here's my question. Are they qualifying for FMLA if they are seasonal? Are they hitting their hours to qualify for FMLA? Or are we just giving them FMLA? Okay. There's yes.
The
Thank
answer is
you.
yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank
Yes,
you
there's
for
so many
the
questions we can run through, but yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, but I'm with Dr. Liz. Their FMLA would stop at that. Well, then again, if you want to go the other route with there's no work, the positions are gone and there's no work. Do we have to retain this employee on FMLA? Good term if there's no positions there.
Yeah.
because the role is terminated anyway. I think where the issue is coming in, if I'm reading this correctly, is that when they return to work, like, do they have to rehire this person because before they left, they went out on FMLA, so they were on a protected leave. But
Mhm.
let's try to keep in mind that protected leave was just from when they went out to when the job was no longer available.
Mhm.
So, I mean, my first response is no, you don't have to bring them back to work because the job has been eliminated.
I'd like to add a caveat to that when doing the FMLA paperwork, you explain to them and put the end of FMLA date as the end of that assignment and have that conversation with them at the time. Your FMLA is ending at this point because this is when your job ends.
Oh, that's it. That's actually great. Yeah.
Right. Because I think we've been doing this a while, so we can kind of make some assumptions from the question. I'm getting the feeling that some people are using this as you must rehire me when this job opens up again because I was on leave, when really that's not the case. If it's someone who's not reliable and you're not getting, consistently the last couple of weeks of work for them, then you can go ahead and move on to another candidate or hire someone else who is more reliable.
And the layoff times are about lack of work, right? The work ends, so that's why everybody's being laid off as in seasonal workers.
Yeah, like probably, landscapers who in the winter time there's not, work for them or something like that. I always try to like equate it to like what kind of a job would this be so I can understand in like while I'm thinking it through in my own head, it's how would somebody only have work 9 months a year? Oh, well, if there's snow on the ground for 3 months, then they're not cutting grass, I'll tell you that. So we have another question. It is about 1:45 in the hour. So we have about 15 minutes left. Is that correct?
Mhm. Yep.
I'm hiring a person who is targeted to take on an operations director position in 2 years when the current person retires. The person has a perfect background but is completely new to the industry. To help her learn the business, we are offering her a position that she is overqualified for, but paying her what a senior person in that position would earn, excuse me, due to her other experience. Although she is brand new, how do I classify this to avoid discrimination against others in the position? Okay, the candidate is aware of the planned future for her if all goes well and knows that the starting point is not expected to be her permanent position for more than a year. What else should I be considering? I'm sorry about how I read that because it didn't even make sense to me.
I think it's a little sticky because you're essentially creating a guarantee of employment. You're guaranteeing a promotion in 2 years. You're guaranteeing a pay rate increase. You're guaranteeing a lot. And in reality, she could start and in the 2 years not perform at the level expected. So that's
Well,
my
then what
first
if the
concern.
and what if the operations director decides in 2 years, I really don't want to retire for another 2 years?
That's
Mhm.
always, yeah, that's a serious concern. And it
It
happens.
happens.
It happens a lot right now.
Hmm.
Right, that somebody thought that they were prepared for retirement, but then, due to economic conditions, they're like, well, I still feel okay. I can still work for a little bit longer and put myself in a better financial position. So I had a little bit of a different idea where I feel like if they do want to bring her into this other position, or other department, I guess for lack of a better term, I would create a new role. Because then you wouldn't have an issue with the salary banding because it sounds like there's some compression going on there. Um, and call her if she's senior because of her overqualification, call her a senior, like call her what she is, or junior to the next role up, or assistant to the next, however you're going to word it. But don't just like slap her into an existing role because you have it and it like kind of makes sense. Like make it make sense then.
I agree. That's a good solution. Like if you still want to go forward with this plan, then create a role that is appropriate for the pay that you plan on offering and that the responsibilities that she'll be doing.
And if that other person decides not to retire, that is the liability that the company is taking on, bringing in this person before they really need her. Like that's the risk you're taking.
So new job description as a senior, whatever they may go into.
And maybe even a completely new salary band if needed. This
That's a good one too. We got lots
great
of good
question.
questions today.
Yeah, fantastic questions.
I really want to overthink this last one. It's like, okay, but no, we'll run out of time quick. Like, it's interesting.
What's that?
I'm just overthinking the last one. It's kind of interesting how throw some person, it's like, okay, how am I going to make this person fit in my organization? Or they need to take over in a couple years if that's a possibility. Now, in today's economy, it's too hard to plan for job changes like that in 2 years.
I think it was the next year. But I think that also highlights that a lot of companies get really stuck on their headcount number and they like don't want to deviate from it, even though it makes more business sense to do so. Or it might be because they have to present it to stakeholders or the board and say, we only have this headcount, instead of saying like we need to add a headcount and these are the reasons that are totally justified, or maybe they're not because it's just an assumption that this person's going to retire next year.
And props
I
to this
agree.
company for succession planning early on. I mean, that's
Mhm.
good. A lot of times that goes by the wayside. So I'm glad that y'all are thinking ahead and thinking about the future.
Can I react on this? I want to react clapping or something. No, I can't. No react button here.
Yeah.
I don't
You
It's
even
have
interesting there with
you
the
have to click on
succession
the raise
planning.
hand. Oh, no, that's not it.
No, the
I thought
succession
there,
planning of this, I was thinking about as well. And it's like, well, our succession is we're going to hire outside, we're going to hire external to replace an internal candidate. We should look at internal first. Anyway, that's a different topic, different subject.
I think that's a good subject. I'm assuming if they've gotten to this point that they've already looked internally, but it's very important for companies to look and train internally whenever possible. That goes a long way towards retention, satisfaction, productivity.
Agreed. Agreed.
Oh, I think
So,
several people in that scenario have their work cut out for them just because of what you said. Typically, a team that has already been there is going to be like, well, why are you bringing in this new person? You really have to justify why you're bringing in an outside person, which is frequently very successful. You just have to have a reason for it.
Especially the higher
Really
level the role.
Yeah.
yeah.
And be very ready to have honest conversations with those in the current department to say, these are the things that you don't have. I mean, it's a hard pill to swallow, but
But it's good for their development. That's how they learn and
Yeah.
grow. And in reality, if you have 2 years, that may be sufficient time to train somebody up for a position who's internal.
Hmm.
Um, but if the talent's just completely lacking, then that's a whole nother conversation that, like Nikki said, you need to have with the employees and see what's going on and why aren't we there and why are none of our employees a fit for that.
Mhm.
And if you have a few employees on the verge, you just may piss them off and they will walk. You may
I
lose a
was
couple
just gonna,
very,
I
yeah.
was just gonna
So,
say you might lose some people to attrition. Yeah.
Mhm.
thank you. That's a nice way to say it, but yeah, yeah, we may lose some experience through attrition. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. I always want to know what uh, what the companies do and see how they're set up. Is it a company of 10 people where, okay, is it 1,000? You never know.
Right. That does make a big difference, right?
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes in those cases where you're bringing in someone from outside, it's because you're poaching them maybe from a competitor and you're wanting to implement some of their procedures because you think it's like they have a better situation, and they can bring that kind of protocol to your own company. So I feel like that would be a justified reason to look outside for someone because you want that like fresh idea and new vigor. That's the other part of it is that sometimes when people have been in a role for a really long time, like you become complacent and you're like, this is how we do it and it works, and I'm not interested in examining or improving. So you want that new person to come in and kind of read some
And I
life.
think we talked about it a little bit before. I don't remember when or if it was on the podcast, but a lot of recruiters now are looking at longevity. Like too much longevity in the workplace is bad for creativity. It's bad for working collaboratively with new groups of people. So, well, I'd say it bad. I don't mean bad, but it can be a sign of these things. So sometimes bringing in somebody from the outside is a refresher. It's a new set of eyes.
Mhm. Like how we said in the beginning of the call, where you get that new person coming in and they change the dynamic, even if they don't mean to, but it's just by the virtue of how like they're coming on board, they're going to change the dynamic of things. Their personality is different, their experience is different.
It's true. They may be a young go-getter who wants to change the world and feels they can, and you have a whole bunch of senior people who do not want any type of change whatsoever.
We're comfortable. And there's nothing wrong with that
Mhm.
either.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You need both in the company, really. Both have value.
Right.
That was a big question.
That was a good one.
Hmm.
Do we have
I've gone
anything
through my
running?
list.
Okay. There's
So
a
here's one we
little.
were
Oh,
kind of
go.
talking about a little bit before the podcast started, before the webinar started. What are common HR myths that you hear? And I liked our conversation because we were talking about how we don't necessarily hear myths, we just hear lived experiences of poor HR,
Hmm.
which give HR a reputation.
Where the myth comes from.
Hmm. So common ones are like HR is just a cost center.
Yeah.
Like if you're not managing HR appropriately, it can be a cost center. But if you are implementing best practices and it could show return on the investment of what the HR team is costing.
My favorite is when they say HR is just to help the company make money or not lose money.
I mean, that myth is born in reality.
But
Hmm.
isn't every position that way? You don't have a position
Yeah.
that's going to lose money. Everything's there. HR is just for the company, so employees get scared. No, don't go to HR. They're only for the company.
Well, similar to that one, the myth that I always hear is HR is just there to fire people or do the company's dirty work. And that is bad HR. I don't
Agreed.
like to do that. I don't, and we don't enjoy firing people either. We enjoy implementing solutions that improve the company, which sometimes does equal termination of an underperforming employee. But I much prefer to like start the year fresh with like, these are the initiatives we're going to do this year. This is how we're going to improve culture, and this is how we're going to make more dynamic communication, or, I prefer to do that kind of stuff, or like wellness benefits. That's what we like to do, but sometimes we do have to do the things we don't like
Yeah. Train and develop over terminate is always a preferable option.
if possible. Yeah. Terminate is always the last option. It should always be the last option. Unless you guys come to us and you're like, I got to fire this person today. And then you give a whole laundry list of bad things that they've done for the past 2 months that you didn't tell us about. But, that's rare. And really, HR is the one who's supposed to be mitigating that because we need to be in contact with the leadership to say ahead of time, like, these are the things that we should be doing. Make sure you start doing it, set some goals, put some things on the calendar so we don't have to do things like the laundry list and have an uncomfortable conversation.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I like the piece when we can do training compliance. Big fan on training. Management training is a lot of fun. Make sure they're
It is. All right,
Especially
Mayhow's
new
back.
managers. Mayhow's back.
I'm just here to tell you guys 2 minutes left.
Quick, if anybody has another question, any of our listeners, we would love to answer it in the 2 minutes we have left.
Absolutely. And we do have solutions at hrserviceinc.com where they can send out their queries, anything that we have left out, or they have any questions. Very happy to help. And this was a really, really fun session, actually, I must say.
Mhm.
And we do have the podcast, so please subscribe to our podcast. We have these fun conversations all the time. I will actually post the link to our page in the chat. So if you haven't already, please follow us, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. We are available every time on Facebook as well. So
You can also hear me and Dean talk about bears for a while. Not
that was
the
really
bears,
fun.
just regular bears.
I don't join that conversation because we don't have bears.
Or
The Mammal
and not
Bear.
interested in the Bears either, which I believe is a sports team, but I can't tell you where they're from.
Is it?
They are in Chicago.
Chicago.
Yes, they are a football team. Yes, a national football.
I really didn't know. I was really searching the back of my mind, like, what sport do they play?
I think we've
Oh,
had
we
that
could
come
even go
up.
Bears. Yeah, because the Chicago Cubs, which is a baby bear, they play baseball out of Chicago. So there's a couple Bears teams in.
That just broke my brain. I'm never going to, that's going to mess me up.
All right, I
Hopefully
think our
thought
time
throughout
is
the
up.
day.
So thank you guys. Thank you so much, Liz, Dean, and Nikki. It was so fun hearing you guys. And please subscribe to the podcast whenever you get chance and email us with any questions and we'll be happy to help. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining today.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.